Happy Friday, boys and girls. Miss Charity here. I'm so happy to be with you. I'm excited for the weekend. I hope you guys are too. If anything, if you don't have any big plans, I hope some of you are going to the beach. But if you don't have any plans, just not having to log into your computer and do your schoolwork is a big bonus, right? I love the weekend. I love that my kids are done with school. I love that my husband gets done with work. And I love that we can just hang out as a family. Usually we stay up later on the weekends, so that is fun. If I were with you in person, which I wish I could be, I might ask you, what are some fun things you're doing this weekend? What are some things that you want to do? And we would talk about that. I don't know, I miss chapel. Our time together where we get to sing, and usually they're really fun songs about who Jesus is, and we get to dance, and we get to maybe have some special announcements from our Miss Rose or Miss Jen. And it's just a special day as we get ready for the weekend. But I am glad to be here with you. Today, I just want to quickly talk about Jesus. So we learn a lot about who Jesus is. And if you have not learned about Jesus, you will. Even in your schoolwork, boys and girls, you learn a lot about who Jesus is, what he has done, what he's accomplished, all the miracles, and most importantly, what he's done for us as sinners on the cross. How he took our place, deserving to die, and he bore the wrath of God so that we could have his righteousness and stand before Jesus holy, having our sins forgiven. And guess what? The benefit of that is that we get to live with Jesus forever. That's an amazing, amazing, amazing truth that we learn about and we know and we embrace and we believe. Today, though, I want to talk to you not about what Jesus has done for us, although that's super important. I just want to talk to you about a little simple passage where Jesus describes himself. It's actually in the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28 and 29. I'm looking at it in my Bible. That's why I'm looking down. You probably can't see it on the camera. But if you want to look in your Bible, I would encourage you to grab a Bible and look up Matthew. Matthew is the very first book in the New Testament. And in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 is where we are going to be. This account, this story in Matthew can also be found in the other Gospels, Mark, Luke, and John. It can be found in there. And these are the stories of Jesus written by the apostles. And they tell us about who he is and his ministry on earth and what he accomplished and what he did. But in this story, this is the only place in all of the New Testament where Jesus himself tells us who he is. And it's kind of interesting because Jesus doesn't say, think of all the amazing things he's done. So for instance, let's take a little side note and let's talk about an amazing athlete, for instance. Maybe LeBron James. I don't know if all of you guys like basketball, but let's use him as an example. LeBron James is an amazing athlete, right? Some of you boys especially love LeBron James. So if I were to ask you about LeBron James, you might be able to tell me all of these amazing things he's done. He's played for the Lakers this long. He's such an amazing basketball player. He's super tall. And if you really know him, you might be able to say, last game, he scored this many points, or he had this many assists, or this many steals, or this many blocks. And if you really, really, really love him, you might know his stats from last year. You might look up on the internet and learn all about all the things he's done and all the amazing records he's broken because you know a lot about LeBron James. But there's a difference between knowing a lot about someone and knowing the someone and who they are. And maybe if I were to ask you, for instance, tell me about your mom or your grandma, you probably wouldn't start it the same way as if you were to answer the question about LeBron James. might say, you wouldn't say, well, my mother, she is so good at making waffles and she did this and she accomplished this at work and she got this reward when she was younger and she did. You might eventually get there, but you would probably initially start off with, oh, my mom, she's so nice, or she's so happy all the time, or she's so friendly, or whatever it might be, because you know her. You don't just know of her. Now, the more you talk about your mom, you might get to some of the things she's done and tell some really neat stories about your mom or your grandma or your dad. But sometimes I'm afraid that we read the Bible and we can learn a lot about who Jesus is, what he's done, but we're kind of learning about him like we would LeBron James, as though we were Googling all the cool things that LeBron James has done. And what I want to encourage you, boys and girls, is that while Jesus has done amazing things and those things have been directed for you and your good and his glory, Jesus, more than anything, wants you to know who he is as a person. And in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 and 29, he describes himself in two ways. I'm going to read you both verses, but we're going to mostly just talk about who Jesus is. He says this, "Come to me, all who are weary, very tired, and burdened," like you're carrying something super heavy that's about ready to crush you. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am," and here it is. Here's where Jesus describes himself. "I am gentle and humble in my heart, and you will find rest for your souls." So this is what he's kind of saying in the verses. For those of you who are weary, and this has the idea of us being weary because of our sin and not being able to attain the righteousness of God. Those of us who are wearied and troubled in our hearts, and we have big, heavy burden of sin that is weighing down on our hearts. God is the only solution for this. Jesus Christ is the only solution for this. And he says this, if you are heavy laden by your sin and your inability to be able to come to the Father on your own good merit, he says this, "Come to me, you who labor and are heavy laden with burdens, and I will give you rest. Put my yoke upon you and learn of me, because I am gentle and I am humble." Humble has the idea of maybe being lowly, or in this situation, we're talking about God. God is awesome and powerful and created the world. And Jesus describes himself as someone who is big and powerful, but he's coming down to us so that we can access him. He's accessible to us. Jesus is gentle to those who need help, who need their sin dealt with, who need their burdens removed. And he says, "Come to me. I am big and powerful, but my heart, who I am in my heart, is gentle. And I am accessible. I come to you and I want to help you." And he says, if you come to me, I will give you rest. Now, that's an amazing thing, that the God of the universe that created everything in it says, when you recognize your sin and your need for me, I bid you come to me, because I am gentle and I will give you rest for your soul, and I will come to you and help you with this. I will take away your burden. I will give you rest. That is pretty amazing. That's such a big, powerful God. And maybe we could illustrate it in this way, going back to LeBron James. Well, it doesn't really compare to God, but imagine LeBron James, this amazing athlete, and everyone knows him. He's so popular. He's like a worldwide star. And you were to see him, and he were to look at you, and let's say you fell down and you got hurt, and he came over to you. And he felt sad for you. And he bent down to you, LeBron James, this amazing athlete. And he says, "Here, I'll help you. My name's LeBron. I want to help you. Let me help take care of you." And he bent down to you. That kind of gives the idea of what Jesus is talking about. here. Wouldn't that be amazing if that happened? And then I bet you would be able to tell other people, you'd say, LeBron James is an amazing athlete, but I know him and he helped me and he was kind and gentle and he bent down to me. He was really tall and he leaned down to help me. Well, that's kind of what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is this powerful God and he is a holy God. But he says, for those of you who learn of him and recognize your need for him, he will come to you as a gentle, kind, accessible God who will take your burdens. And as you put his yoke on you, this is not talking about an egg yolk, boys and girls. This is talking about a yoke that they put around the oxen to keep them together. So when we come to Jesus, we come to him as our master. We put ourselves under his authority. And he rules us, but he is a kind, gentle, accessible God who rules us with rest and kindness. And that yoke, being under his yoke, is easy and so good. That is who Jesus is. Jesus is not harsh or demeaning or austere or far apart from us. He is holy. He is big. He is awesome. He is to be wowed at. But he also wants to come to you when you recognize your need for him and you submit to him. He will come to you as a gentle and humble Christ. I hope that you'll remember this. There's really nothing super significant that we do with this other than believe it because it comes from his words. Jesus says, of all the things he could describe himself as, I am gentle and lowly. So boys and girls, remember that. We need Jesus. We need him to be accessible to us to help us deal with our sin. I hope you guys have a great Friday, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.